everybody. Welcome to another session of Holistic Conversations. It's your host, Polo K. Ona. Yeah, so I had somebody tell me, um, Polo, is that not, are you the same person as Igbo Odinaala? I'm like, yeah, like Polo is my stage name. So she's like, oh yeah, I saw a program on YouTube. So yeah, um, yeah, one and the same person. And you're welcome to another Holistic Conversations session. It's host exclusive today. You know, I promise you all I'll keep bringing you guests and also keep dropping the host exclusive conversations based on topical issues and feedback from you. And today's topic is the argument of monotheism and polytheism in African traditional spirituality. It's actually a spin-off from my previous conversation with Alusi Pablo, where we talked about Odinala. And of course, you know, Odinala is very vast. So we touched on several things, the issue of Holy Trinity, and I spoke about the representation of Holy or Divine Trinity within Igbo traditional spirituality. And that caused a lot of argument. A lot of people reached out to me, asking me to explain further the concept of Holy Trinity within Igbo spirituality. And they asked me to explain further because before now they believed that the concept of Holy Trinity existed only within the Catholic Church or only within Christianity. So, of course, this then leads to the argument of is African spirituality monotheistic or polytheistic. Now, the general view so far is that African spirituality is polytheistic. And that is because in the movies, especially in the movies, you hear stuff like the gods have spoken. The gods that that brings plural. So people generally conclude that African spirituality is polytheistic. And then that Christianity is monotheistic because Christianity speaks about God the Father as the supreme God. Now, when they speak of God the Father as the supreme God, how about God the Son and God the Spirit? That's where Christianity tries to play the tricks to say they are three in one and one in three. But then, once you bring in the number three into the equation, that makes it multi, that makes it polytheistic. Hello, can I help you? So yeah, my kids watch TV in tons, and all they do is run in here to come and stop. So, but yeah, let's keep it going. So polytheism and monotheism. What's the argument here? So the argument is that African spirituality is polytheistic and Christianity is monotheistic. And in all of these views, that monotheism is the way to go. In the sense that, they believe in a supreme God, but they believe in one God. And, the Christians have this view that they are right about their concept of God. And as long as they believe in one God, then if you believe in more gods, their book says, you shall worship no other God aside me, this and that. So you're wrong. So the idea of monotheism also connotes some sense of superiority or some sense of being correct or perfect, in the sense that if you believe in multiple gods, then you're a pagan, you know, and if you believe in a supreme God, then you're right because there is a supreme God. Anyways, the sake of this session, holistic conversation, is to set the record straight about African traditionals. spirituality, spiritual concept, African spiritual cosmology. You see, African, I will be using Igbo spirituality as a case study. So now the Igbos have what we call Chukwu concept of the supreme being, creator of all things, called Chukwu. And that is a similarity to what Christians call their supreme God. Even though characteristics, the, the details and information about what makes up the character of the Christian supreme God is different from what makes up the character of Igbo supreme God, Chukwu, which then makes us say as Igbos that Chukwu is not God. You can allocate God to the ranks of all the other deities within the Igbo cosmology, like um, Amadioha. Let's just use Amadioha for instance, right? Amadioha is a deity and as well an element, right? A deity and energy force, control of an element, right? Of certain elements. Now, in Igbo cosmology, we have what we call Alusi. Now, Alusi is actually what English can call God. Now, because English in the representation of Christianity, right? They try to say that they are worshiping one God and their God, they recognize no other God but the supreme God, right? And then the recognition of gods, on the other hand, in African spirituality makes it polytheistic. But that's not it. In African spirituality, there is the recognition of other um, deities, divine beings that have the same nature or have the same substance as Chukwu, not because they are rival, not because they exist in isolation, but because they proceed in their own very nature from Chukwu, the source of all things. So there is a hierarchy to things, right? And at the top of that hierarchy is the supreme being, the same concept that the Christianity tried to diminish into the concept of God. Now, the confusion comes in whereby we speak of a supreme being and the existence of other gods. And we speak, I'm talking about as evil. We speak of Chukwu as the supreme being who exists in a duality, in the dual form of Chi and Eke, right? The unseen and the seen, the spirit or the animating force, the animating force and the creative force, Chi and Eke, right? So Chineke, that's where the word comes, Chineke. And that is the first. Now we'll be speaking about three concepts of divine trinity. So in Igbo spirituality, we have three concepts of the divine trinity. The first trinity, the second trinity, and the third trinity. Each of these trinities form the three divine trinities. Within, as far as my study goes in Igbo spirituality, right? So the first one is the trinity of Chukwu at the top, Chi on this side, and Eke coming together to form one triumph, one God, to expression expressed in two forms, animating force and the creative force. The animating force, we attribute masculinity to it, and the creative force, we attribute femininity or feminism, not feminism, femininity to the creative force. So the creative force is feminine, and the animating energy, animating force that gives life, of which when they come together, they create life, is masculine. And that as well expresses in the physical realm. Because as they say, as above, so below. So, Igbos have a supreme being that we can also say is dual nature. Christians have a supreme God that is, is a triad, that is a trinity. Now, they say that their supreme God, one, is divided into three: Father, Son, and Spirit. Three distinct beings, in the sense that it is not the Father that died on the cross, it is not the Spirit that died on the cross, yet it is the Son. It's not the Son that impregnated Mary, it's not the Father that impregnated Mary, it is the Spirit. It is not the Spirit that sent himself, it is not the Son that sent himself, to send the Spirit, it is the Father. So they have three distinct personalities, characteristics, and functions, you know. So one created the world and had a regret and all of that, and then sent his son to die for the sake of. So we found out that we are talking about three gods here. Now, in the sake of for this, when we talk about three gods, we're talking about polytheism. Now, when Christians say that they recognize only the supreme God, why do they pray to angels who are other, according to Christianity, other celestial beings? They're not human beings. They don't want to call them God. They call them celestial beings. And these celestial beings have the capacity to act on behalf of God. They have the capacity to comfort as messengers from God. They have the capacity to be prayed to and to answer your prayer. They have the capacity to protect and fight for you, provide for you, and even bless you. Like Archangel Michael, Archangel Raphael, this and that. Even down to human beings that have lived before, the ancestors of other people, they pray to them in the name of martyrs and saints, calling upon them for intercession for their sins, for intercession to find lost property, intercession for the sick, intercession, many things to pray for you. You pray to these beings, these human beings that have transcended to the beyond, to act in their own capacity as God would act in your life. You don't see this thing as a multiplicity of gods. So the lion gives birth to a dog, and a cow gives birth to an elephant, and a giraffe gives birth to a monkey. So if your father is God, you're God. You're a child of God, therefore a God in your own capacity. And if you're a God and every other child of God are gods, then it is the polytheistic nature of the concept of God. And when the Igbos or the Africans say gods have spoken, that polytheistic expression does not take away the monotheistic impression they have of a supreme being, the supreme source of all, the one, the supreme all, that supreme all, right? The reason why I'm carefully avoiding calling that the supreme God is because supreme God exists only within the concept of Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and every other thing that has fallen out from there. Now, another thing again to let you know that the Christian Trinity speak about three distinct gods. One, the Jews do not accept the Trinity. They don't believe that Jesus is part of their God. They believe in God. They believe Jesus is the prophet of God, as many other prophets before him, possibly after him, in their story. Now, if if the Trinity was one indivisible entity, how come the Jews are divided? And remember, Judaism came before Christianity. Now, for the sake of for those who don't know, Elohim as well is a plural word, and I'm just going to confirm that real quickly. Elohim as well being a plural word. So uh, if you go and search out the meaning of the word Elohim, so Elohim is grammatically a plural noun for gods or deities. So when you say Elohim, you're speaking about the gods of the Israelites, the deities of the Israelites, the Hebrew people, ancient Hebrew people. So when you speak of a supreme God and you say part of the names that you call him when you pray to him is Elohim, then you're speaking to the deities, you're speaking to gods, multiple gods. That is polytheism at play. So it's either we agree that African spirituality is monotheistic in the sense that it recognizes the existence of the source or the one, that that source, that supreme being, that first spark of light and life, right? That ancient primordial spark of light and life, the source of all things. In the sense that African spirituality, no matter where you go from Zulu land to Bakongo land to Igbo land to Yoruba land, anywhere you go, they exist the recognition in their African traditional spirituality, they exist the recognition of a supreme being, and that is monotheism. Now, because the truth of the existence of life cannot be spoken about without the characteristic, without the character of duality, then you cannot just speak of a supreme being and, and, and avoid the multiplicity of in the way this supreme being expresses itself. So, at the very base of it is Chukwu, the greatest chi of all chi, the summation of all chi, the source of all chi, the seed, the single seedling that gave birth to the roots, the stem, the branches, the fruits, the leaves, everything submitted into that little seed or that great seed. That's true. Expresses itself in the first duality, chi and ik. Now, let me briefly touch on the other concept of Trinity within Igbo cosmology because I was asked to explain that as well. So, like I said, we have three concepts of divine Trinity within Igbo cosmology. The first one, the first triangle, the first pyramid you get is Chukwu at the top, Chi on this side, Eke on the other side. Now we have the Trinity, Chukwu divided into Chi and Eke. So people say Chukwu Okike, right? Chukwu Okike now, you can say God, if you want to literally translate it in English, you then have to reduce the quality and characteristic of Chukwu and say God creator. Now, the second concept of Trinity is Chukwu, Chi, and Mad. Chukwu, Chi, and Mad coming together to still form one. Now, I have my Chukwu, my creator, and I also have my Chi, which is the essence of my creator within me, the pulse of life, the pulse of the spark of existence, the spark of life and energy force of Chukwu flowing within me, within and around me is my chi. Now, what's the Trinity here? Chuku comes in here, Chi comes in, and then Madu comes in. So Chuku, Chi, and Madu being okay. So Chuku, Chi, and Madu form the second Trinity. The third Trinity is Madu, Obara, and one concept of family. Madu, Obara, and one. Every father and mother are connected to their children by blood. The blood is a distinct substance of its own. The father or the mother, a distinct human being, their own. So is the child. But we know that they are connected. As soon as if you see a father and a son, you know. See a mother and her daughter, you know that there is bond. There is bond that goes beyond just friendship or just the knowledge of them knowing each other. That there is a bond of blood. The bond of blood is the binding force between mother and child, mother and child, parent and child, madu and nwa, madu being human, nwa being child. So the human and the child have the connection of blood. That is a divine trinity. People can then go further to say father, mother, son, father, mother, and daughter. No, we bring it all under madu, under humanity, human, blood, and child. Now you can as well attribute chi to be the blood of Chuku flowing within you as madu. So the connection between Chuku and madu is chi. The divine connection between man and child, between a human and the child, is the blood. The divine connection between chi and madu is between Chuku and madu is chi. And Chuku in its own nature is divided into chi and eke. So you've seen the three divine concepts of Trinity within Igbo spirituality that has existed for thousands of years. Some people would actually even say hundreds of thousands of years, and some people would actually also say millions of years. Um, the debate goes on how old is the Igbo civilization, the great ancient Igbo civilization. How old is Yoruba? How old is Yoruba civilization? How old is the Zulu civilization? How old is the Bakongo civilization? How old exactly was the ancient Kemetic civilization? Goes way back that we have access to surviving historical evidence to. So, if there's anything that proves that Igbos lived in the desert when it was still a jungle, if there's any surviving evidence, such evidence is not readily available in your academic curriculum or to just any brain. It either comes to you, very lucky to get it, or you have access to some proper classified information, you know. So, yeah. So we've made that clear today that the Igbos had concept of Trinity that predates Christianity itself. Igbos had their own concept of Christianity as much as every other ethnic nation on Africa, having their own concept of Christianity, of their own concept of divine Trinity. And if you look at it, it is also not far from Madu Obara Nawa, being human, blood, and child. they may just substitute this in the words Madu and one for their own language. They will only substitute it and go and say what Madu is in their language, say what blood is in their language, say what child is in their language. But it's the same concept, it's the same mathematical formula. And this has been existing even before first European was civilized. So that's to tell you how far back, how much predates Christianity. Also speaks to the argument of plagiarism. Because a lot of people, speaking to me about Kolo, we want you to come and explain this, explain that. What do you mean by Igbo concept of Trinity? Is the idea of Trinity not unique to the Catholic Church? They're not the ones who came up with that idea by whatever divine inspiration. No, 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 no. Catholic Church did not come up with the concept of Holy Trinity. What they did was to take this concept from spiritual systems that existed before Christianity, twist the idea to suit their own intention and their own design. And they came up with a God that has a spirit and a son that make up a trinity at the same time it's one. And then they tell you, see this God as one, but his son died for you, the spirit does this for you, but they are one. The same thing we say that we are one with Chuko. All Alusi in Igbo land are children and deities that come forth from Chuko that have been placed in charge of certain elements and certain duties and certain ranks. The same way you have your angels, you have your archangels, you have the singers, you have the fighters. I don't really understand who the angels are killing. Because when they say there is war going on in heaven and there is a battle and the Michael and the Raphael are archangels, some are leading battalions and legions. So I'm wondering, they really have all these swords, they paint them to have. Angels really, beings with great swords and great wings, cutting down themselves and, really exhibiting a lot of. Yeah. So I just had to attend to a situation again. I'm sure all of these come together. But yeah, it speaks to the issue of Chuku not being God. I'm going to talk about that again, because somebody also reached out to me and said, before we were born, Chuku has God. Chuku will always be God. Bro, I don't know what you're saying. So, Chuku has a different story from God. Now, when we ask the question to a Christian, who is God? They say God is our Father, the creator of heaven and earth. And we then ask you, who is Jesus? They say Jesus is the Son of God. He was sent down to earth by God to live and die for the sin of mankind. And then we ask them, okay, and then what was this? They say Jesus Christ died, woke up, went back to heaven, but before he went, he promised to send the Spirit. So he went back and sent the Spirit and all of that. If you ask an Igbo traditional practitioner who is true, he would say the same thing. The Igbo, especially if you meet a Dibia or an Igbo elder who knows his tradition, not the ones that have been, that are under the religious cycles, you know, that the Western religions and the other external religions have brought up, right? If you ask a real Igbo traditionalist, who is true in all that that person tell you, even if that person speaks to you for 3 days, you will not hear where that person will mention that Chukwu gave birth to a son in Hebrew land named Jesus, the time when the letter J was not even existing and we didn't even speak such a language. They won't even tell you at any point in time that Chukwu sent his spirit or any spirit at all whatsoever to go get the wife of a man named Joseph pregnant. I won't tell you at any time that Juku sent his son to be crucified on the cross. So, if the Igbos that own the cosmological spiritual concept of Juku will not say anything about him having a son or impregnating Mary or any of his creations dying on the cross to save the rest of mankind, how can you come and tell me that a God that has a son, that his spirit got Mary pregnant and she gave birth to his son that lived and died on the cross and woke up 3 days after and went up? How can you tell me they are the same? It's like it's like it's almost unimaginable. It's one thing if you ask me, who do I respect most? And I say, my father. And I ask you, who do you respect most? You say, your father. That we are both talking about fathers doesn't make my father your father, doesn't make your father my father. Especially if your father has a different name from my father, looks different from my father, did not give birth to, did not, my father did not marry your mother, did not your mother, your father marry my mother. We are not blood relatives in any way or form. In fact, you're European, I'm African. Even if we both have fathers, our fathers are not the same. So when the mercenaries sailed down to the shores of Africa and understood our concept or questioned our concept of Chukwu and tried to interpret it, they either deliberately or unintentionally translated Chukwu or our concept of supreme being to their concept of God. That is because their concept of God or their concept of divine beings stopped at the level of God. In Igbo spirituality, we went beyond the level of God. Alusi is the level which Christian God is within Igbo spirituality. What an Alusi is to an Igbo traditional practitioner is what God is to the Christian. I'm not a Dibia, uh, not a confirmed Dibia. Maybe I'm one of those unordained priests. But what I'm trying to say is this: I'll leave it to our Dibia to continuously spread the word of correcting the misconception. And I'm glad that many of them are coming out today to speak to people, to tell them that it's not just about the people who practice some negative elements or people who practice African spirituality in a negative form, right? It's not just all about that and all about all the negativities that the media seem to have putting about that spirituality, calling it juju, calling it voodoo, without really explaining what these things really are, you know? So, today, anyways, what this holistic conversation session is meant to deal with is concept of polytheism and monotheism. One, also to establish the fact that Christianity do not own the concept of Trinity, that the concept of divine Trinity or divine Trinities existed within African spiritual practices and understanding, worldview, right? Thousands of years before Christianity came into existence. This is one of the evidences to show that most of the basic principles that you find today in Christianity, practiced in a very watered down form, are actually rooted, deeply rooted in African practices, African concepts, in African world. So, yeah, we're going to round up today's session. Uh, join us in the comment section. We're not doing live yet. Very soon we'll start doing some live sessions. People are really pulling out probably on Instagram. People have sent messages on TikTok saying we should go live. But yo, please share. Follow our social media pages, Instagram, TikTok, there. Follow us on, subscribe to our page on YouTube as well. Listen, listen up on Spotify. When we get to 1,000 followers, I believe on TikTok, we'll start going live. Before that, we'll be doing a few live shows on Instagram, but that as well is still in the work. Your boy still has a lot of things to try to put together. But yeah, I promise you we'll be doing some live shows very soon, live holistic conversations, so we can have these conversations in real time. But in the meantime, please drop your comments in the comment section. Drop your questions. I'll definitely respond to them. I'll definitely make more series from your questions to respond to more things you're saying. And one thing I want you to take out from our conversation today is the fact that polytheism and monotheism cannot actually be separated as long as you're trying to understand the nature of divinity. You cannot say that the recognition of the source is monotheism, but the expression is polytheism. And then you want to disagree that one person is polytheistic and the other person is monotheistic. Whereas the polytheistic person recognizes the source and the monotheistic person recognizes the multiplicity of their mono, of their word. So it's one big set, right? It's one source, different expression. One source, different forms. So it's just like saying we are one humanity, but different people. We are one humanity, but we are different people. There's one God in the Christian world. There's one supreme being in the African's world. There are many gods, so many expressions of that one supreme being. So in African spirituality, we see you, the individual, as a sub-God. We see you as a sub-God in your human expression, with the idea that your divine expression is even more of the higher level of God self than your human self. So as far as Africa is concerned, no African is born insane, especially the sin of any guy called Adam. Nobody is born with original sin. You're born with original divinity as long as Africa is concerned. All of her children are born with original divinity and not original sin. And therefore, you have the onus, the duty to seek for your true self and unveil that spark of divinity within you, fulfilling your divine purpose on earth. Not for you to start washing away this original sin of another man, then constantly confessing and begging for forgiveness for your own sin as a human being, and live your life expecting to face condemnation or mercy at the point of your transition beyond, or throughout your existence in life. Every year, be asking for mercy in a manner as to say you're always coming from a point of a sinner. Christianity tries to make you look like that sub-being. You're always a sinner. No matter how much you're righteous, you must sin 77 times, times 700 times, times 7 times, times 7 times a day. You must be a sinner as long as Christianity is concerned. African spirituality is not concerned with being a sinner or not being a sinner. They are concerned with you developing your divinity. And by virtue of associating with your divinity, you find yourself living a life that Christians would want to call righteous. So a lot of Christians are actually trying to practice African spirituality, but they're trying to practice it in the Roman way. And that Roman way will not serve you holistically, it will serve you in parts. First of all, it takes away that divinity from you and hangs it on the cross. It takes away your ability to bless yourself and gives it to the hands of the clergy, you know. And then even if sometimes you don't pay for your blessing immediately, you pay for it later. You know, the way in England they tell you have free healthcare, but if you work, you pay your taxes, you pay this and that. Most of these monies are actually used to take care of the healthcare system. So as an individual, you may not pay for healthcare at the point of receiving the health service, but you contribute to the healthcare system. So you're still paying for that system to run. So it's not necessarily free, you're still contributing to it. That's the same way, Christianity will tell you you're not paying for the blessing, but you're paying your tithe. So if you pay your tithe, you'll be blessed. So you're not paying for your blessing at the point of receiving that blessing, but you're servicing the heavens via your tithes so that the blessings will keep coming. So yeah, they will come for me now. All right. So thank you all for joining, for watching today's session of Holistic Conversations. Trust me, we have beautiful guests lined up. The likes of Mazi Zaku, Mazi Zaku. Uh, Hopefully, we are able to get into the studio. We have a lot of people really, lined up to come for other kind of conversations, political conversations, you know, a lot of things that have to do with us as Africans. This is Holistic Conversation Studio, where we discuss every matter discussing an African from a holistic point of view, bringing truth to light, speaking about those unspoken questions, unspoken words, unspoken thoughts, those things that they told us not to try to ponder about because they are mysteries. You see, we are trying to demystify the mysteries in our holistic conversations session. So yeah, thank you everybody for watching, comment, don't forget, like and share, and look out for our announcement for the live session so you can join us. But in the meantime, keep tuning in, keep tuning in, keep tuning in. Once again, is your host, Igbo Odinaala, aka Kolo. Thank you so much. Peace out.